Kelly Cougars, and welcome to your online library class. This week we are returning to the subject National Hispanic Heritage Month, which is currently being celebrated all over the United States beginning September 15th and lasting throughout October 15th. This week we are putting a spotlight on one of my favorite author illustrators, Yuyi Morales. Today we are going to hear Yuyi talk about her Pura Belle Prix award-winning book, Dreamers. In 2019, she won the Pura Belle Prix Award for Best Illustrator. An illustrator is a person who makes artwork for books. Let's hear what she has to say.
Hi, my name is Yuyi Morales, and I'm an artist and an author, and I'm delighted to tell you about my picture book, Dreamers. There are many reasons why I created Dreamers, but one of the most important ones is that I wanted to celebrate what immigrants bring to a new country when they arrive. They bring their strength, they bring their abilities, their talents, their passion, las ganas por hacer algo. Another reason why I created Dreamers, picture books help me find my path and my purpose as an immigrant in the United States. What I remember most dearly is some nights in which my mother will sit next to her sewing machine, and she will put a chair for me at the table. She will bring a pencil or a pen and pieces of paper. She will let me draw away as she needed to work. This was late at night because she had already been doing all the other chores, and now she needed time to create. I love to use symbolism in my work. As I was researching for this book, I found out the monarch butterflies. Monarch butterflies, they take such a long time to arrive here that when they come to the United States, they are already a fourth generation. And it made me think so much about how immigrants, some of us do things like that. We come and not necessarily thinking that what we are going to change is our own life, but how we are going to be adding and changing the life of those that come after us. You will also find a bat. There are bats that also come from Mexico. They arrive in some areas of California, and they also arrive to Texas. You will find also some other animals, such as a snake. And it actually, what it signifies is how, as we move, as we are learning, there are those who will put in our path something that feels difficult, that feels like it is hard to understand why we have to go through these things. But eventually we find that those things that at the beginning we didn't know how to deal with, eventually that will be our strength. We will learn from that. You will see also something that resembles the craft that metal workers use for some of the artwork that is made in Mexico, and I did it with the swallows. There is also inspiration like the volcanoes you see there. They are the representation of the sleeping woman and also of the warrior. And to me, they are very, very important because they symbolize both the feminine power and the waking up of the power of people. We all have things to say, we all have stories, and we do it in different ways. Sometimes it can be as simple as you grab a few pieces of paper and you tie them together, you make a little book. And in that book, you can create your own story in many different ways. Sometimes maybe you want to write words. Sometimes you might not want to use any words. Perhaps you are going to make a drawing or 2 or 3. As long as you feel that whatever you put in those pages is telling what you want to say, then you are creating your own book. There are many different ways of saying that story, and every one of us, you have your very own way to tell what you want to say. Spanish has always a very strong place in all the stories that I tell. The way I see it is that Spanish and English are like siblings. They are like these two languages that are not separate from each other. In fact, they are part of one same language. Lastly, I want to leave you with one quote from my book. Someday, we will become something we haven't even yet imagined. But right now, we are stories, we are resilience, we are hope, we are dreamers, soñadores of the world. Thank you.
Okay. I want to share that Yuyi is one of my very favorite artists. I really enjoy listening to her talk about her process. Did you notice that she said she does research before drawing her pictures? She's very careful about which animals and other elements she paints and draws in her artwork because each one symbolizes something special, something in this story that we're about to hear related to her life journey from Mexico to the United States. Reflection questions and pre-reading questions. After hearing that interview with Yuyi, and shortly you will have heard the story Dreamers, I want you to think about these questions. You can post answers to these questions on the Seesaw Journal. What animals does Yuyi use in her work? Why does she choose those animals? Give an example. Give one example from the story. What does the word resplendent mean? Now I am going to share with you her story Dreamers, and at the end of the story, I am going to read about her real life to you. I dreamed of you, then you appeared. Together we became amor, love, amor. Resplendent life, you and I. One day we bundled gifts in our backpack and crossed a bridge, outstretched like the universe. Adios, corazón. And we made it to the other side, thirsty, in awe, unable to go back. We became immigrants. Migrantes, you and I. The sky and the land welcomed us in words unlike those of our ancestors. There were so many things we didn't know, unable to understand and afraid to speak. We made lots of mistakes. You and I became caminantes. Thousands and thousands of steps we took around this land until the day we found a place we had never seen before. Suspicious, improbable, unbelievable, surprising, unimaginable. Where we didn't need to speak, we only needed to trust. And we did. Books became our language. Books became our home. Books became our lives. We learned to read. To speak. To write. And to make our voices heard. Someday, we will become something we haven't even yet imagined. But right now, we are stories. We are two languages. We are lucha. We are resilience. We are hope. We are dreamers, soñadores of the world. We are love, amor, love. That is the end of her story, Dreamers. And now I'm going to share with you Yuji's personal story of her life. My story. All of us have stories. Each of them is different. This story began in 1994 when I crossed a bridge with my 2-month-old son, Kelly, from Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, to El Paso, Texas. And, though I did not know it at the time, to a new life in a strange and unfamiliar place, the United States of America. Once here, I was surprised by the quietness of the streets, the houses neatly lined up along the roads, and later by the cold winds of San Francisco Bay in the summer. I had come so that my son could meet his great-grandfather Ernie, who was very ill and not expected to live much longer, and to marry Kelly's father, a U.S. citizen. I wanted to return to Mexico soon afterward, but was shocked to learn that because of U.S. immigration rules, my new status as a permanent resident, I was now expected to remain in the United States. I had become an immigrant. But could I possibly call this new place my home? Like most immigrants, I missed things that felt familiar. My family, the food, my friends, my job as a swimming coach, and my ability to communicate, to understand and be understood. In this new place where I did not speak the language, it was as if no one seemed to notice I existed, as if my words and actions didn't count. In those first days, I constantly wondered if I would ever find a place where I felt valued. Then, one day, Kelly's grandmother brought us to a building that would change our lives forever. We discovered the public library, and it was spectacular. I had never been in a place where you could just take books from the shelves without asking and without being scolded or punished for taking them. I could not believe how beautiful this and sturdy they were. And then, when I opened them, I was amazed at the power of their illustrations, pictures. Even though I could understand very few of the words, I realized that I could understand the story through those images or pictures, a realization that would come to inspire me later on. I began bringing Kelly there almost every day, and although at first it was difficult for a little baby to stay longer than a few minutes, eventually we were able to spend entire afternoons looking at picture books, often only leaving when we were told the library was closing. We were at home. During those years, as Kelly got older, librarians at the Western Addition branch, Richmond branch, Presidio branch, Mission branch, and the San Francisco Main Library on Larkin Street, among many others, guided Kelly and me to find books we could love, though in an English that I struggled to understand. One day, when Kelly was not yet 2 years old, Nancy Jackson, the children's librarian at the Western Addition branch, handed him his very own library card. I was in awe. We could now take home a stroller brimming with books. One of the most important things I learned at the library is that through books we can find our path and our purpose. I also learned that I love to tell stories and that I could tell them through books. I studied the books I admired so much and became determined to make my own. My first efforts were very simple and very crude, made by hand and bound with ribbons and filled with my own stories and drawings. I was so proud of these books. Kelly was not a dreamer in the way the word is used today. to refer to young, undocumented immigrants who were brought to the United States as children and who have lived and gone to school here and know no other country than this one as their own. Kelly and I were dreamers in the sense that all immigrants, regardless of our status, are dreamers. We enter a new country carried by hopes and dreams and carrying our own special gifts to build a better future. Dreamers and dreamers of the world, migrantes soñadores. Now, I have told my story. What is yours? This week's activity, tell your story. You can tell your story in pictures or words or both. You may use any art supplies you have available. Take pictures of the pages you create. Record yourself reading the story's words or talking about the story's pictures. Think about how Yuyi uses animals, colors, and other pictures or symbols to tell her story. Try to do the same. If you want, you can take the pages of your story and tie them together with string, ribbon, staples, or any way that works best for you. Until next time, Kelly Cougars.